big star. Might win an Oscar, you can never tell. The movie's gonna make me a big star.
Welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. I am Noel Thomas II. Talking about fair food, thinking about fair food. You know, when you think
and
about.
And you didn't go the other week, did you?
I haven't been to the fair in a very long time.
You haven't been since I was like 5 years old.
Yeah, you're probably
really?
right.
What's wrong with you? That's
I don't know,
anti-American.
you know, it's this.
Anti-Cleveland County or Cleveland County?
Countyan.
Count.
I will say it's
yeah.
really hot. It's been really hot this year. So
Well, it has been hot.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the food. So
I haven't been in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about the deep fried things, and I said deep fried Twinkies and Oreos, and you said deep fried what?
Kool-Aid. Yeah, it's a real thing.
How do you deep fry a beverage?
Well, I think it's basically like
powder?
It's like they get the powder, maybe mix it with some dough, and then deep fry it. And so I don't know.
Crazy.
I've never had it. I don't have any desire
That's
to.
crazy.
Now, a couple years ago, my daughter had a cheeseburger made with Krispy Kreme donuts instead of.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the Paula Deen
Yeah,
thing.
the Paula Deen special.
Yeah.
What that is.
Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, she did a thing on that. Well, you know, yeah, when you think about fair food, you think about carnivals, you think about all sorts of things, which really ties into
This
the
is a
Gotham
good
City.
segue. I'm
yeah,
proud
the
of you
Gotham
for this
City
one.
special. Today we're going to focus on
perfect.
Gotham City. And I'm really happy to have you, man. This guy, you know who he is? He goes by the name of the Gangster of Love, the Space Cowboy. Some people even call him Maurice. That's the Joker.
Yeah, that's right.
Good to have you, man. Good to
I hate that song.
Oh,
But
man.
now you got to
That's
use
one of
it.
my all-time favorite Steve Miller
I will
songs.
if you shake your peaches.
Only if he shakes his cream.
Let's please not. Yeah, let's not see that, please. Yeah.
Welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel Thomas II here. Greg Tillman over there beside camera one, the Gangster of Love himself.
I've been called many of things, but never that.
Thomas Manning back with us, and we are going to talk about all things Gotham today. Not all things, but many things Gotham. The movie The Joker is in theaters now, and this is you know, this has been a kind of a long time coming. We've seen this character on film, on TV, in comics, in novels themselves. I mean, in parodies. I mean, it's been pretty amazing that this character, who is almost 80 years old, has been probably one of the most well-known and recognized of Batman's villains. And I think a big part of it goes to the fact that he's a clown, and clowns are typically supposed to make you laugh. But here we are with this clown that's pretty evil, and we've seen evil clowns with Pennywise and a lot of other things as well. But Joaquin Phoenix cast to do a standalone film, really the first standalone villain film that we've seen, other than we saw the Suicide Squad, but a standalone.
Does Venom count?
Venom is a
He's an anti-hero.
anti-hero. Yeah. I guess he's, you know, depends.
The way they portrayed him in his film, he was more of the anti-hero compared to like in a Spider-Man film, he's usually the villain. But
Right. Yeah. So, but regardless, you don't see many films about the villain.
Yeah. By the way, you forgot someone.
Oh, Tim. Tim and Derek both back on the Tim cam.
Oh, Derek.
Sorry,
whatever.
forget. What did I say?
Don't want to hurt it. Derek's irrelevant. I just didn't want to hurt Tim's feelings.
Wow. Tim.
Because Tim gets testy if he
Tim
feels
on the
left
Tim
out.
cam. There he is. He's a little excited. He's as excited as the Joker. Pure happiness. But if you're looking for happiness in this Joker film, there's no happy ending. There's no happy beginning.
There's no happy middle.
Yes, the film itself is full of pure hopelessness.
Yeah.
It is a tragedy.
It could be my autobiography.
It's a tragedy from start to finish.
Really?
And this is the story of this director and screenwriter's envisioning of what they think the Joker backstory is. It's a guy in his 40s who, and the time period is like the early 1980s, although it never says that.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you can tell that the time period is kind of early 1980s Gotham.
Yeah.
And the guy's name is Arthur Fleck.
Arthur Fleck. Yeah.
Arthur Fleck, I'll get it out right. You know, if you look over the history of the Joker in comics and films, there's been various backstories.
That's what I was going to ask, whether this was an original story or goes back to the origins of the character.
Well, it's original, but it takes bits and pieces from the Batman Joker canon, and definitely borrows heavily from Scorsese's films, The King of Comedy and Taxi Driver.
Yeah,
Heavily from those.
And A Beautiful Mind as well from Ron Howard. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting twist of kind of pulling all of those pieces together. But the story is there's this guy that is kind of a loner. He's always been unhappy. He's always kind of been mistreated by pretty much everybody, and he still is. Even as an adult, the kids pick on him, regular people pick on him. He works at this kind of a clown for hire shop where they hire clowns to go out and do all sorts of things, spinning signs or birthday parties or hospital parties, doesn't matter. He's with this group of other clowns. And early on, you see him picked on by some kids, and they steal his sign that's a going out of business sign, and yet his boss doesn't believe that happened, and his boss basically says, I'm going to dock your pay or either going to fire you.
Because you stole the sign.
Because you
Yeah.
stole the sign. It's
Yeah.
like, why would I steal a
Yeah.
going out of business sign? So you really get a sense of just this guy who is in a hopeless life. So it's a tragedy from the beginning.
Yeah.
That does not change. And you kind of follow his story and some choices he makes that leads him down a deeper and darker and darker and darker path. Not going to go into a whole lot more of that. It's the Joker's a bad guy, and you try to get some sense of maybe some reasons why you're supposed to feel for him. But I really never felt for him. I mean, I felt
Yeah.
sorry that he was getting tortured.
Yeah, yeah,
I really did feel bad about that. But it's really a journey of mental illness.
yeah.
And the things that can trigger the mental illness to go from bad to worse. You think that's enough to give kind of the nutshell?
Yeah, the more we talked about it, we were like, we know we're supposed to be having some sort of discussion about this film, whether it be how people are treated in society, people with mental illness, how we should never treat the people around. We should never know what they're going through, and
We never know
or
what people
we
are going
never
through.
do know
Yeah.
what they're going through, and we should work to treat them the best we can.
And treat everybody with
Yeah,
respect.
exactly. So some of those broader conversations, but when you get down to the more in-depth discussions, you don't have a clue what you're supposed to be talking
Yep.
about. Just the way they portray his character, it's just like it almost felt like, let's see how much we can torture this guy before he goes crazy.
Yeah,
Let's see.
absolutely.
Let's see, we have him hit by a car now. Oh, we have him, well, I don't want to get into spoilers,
Right.
but it's just
There
one
were
after
a lot of
another. It's a
things-
domino effect.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that went wrong with this guy.
Yeah.
And some of those times, most of those times, he did not put himself in those situations. The situations found him. Let's go through the positives real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
You could not turn away from Phoenix's
Yeah,
portrayal.
yeah.
The first hour was really almost as perfect as a film can be.
Yeah.
And that first hour, I was writing a solid A. I was
Yeah.
just like, wow, this is just incredible. The shot selections, there were scenes where you had no dialogue and just the camera telling the story and the characters interacting, and with this kind of droning cello as background music that just really kind of brought you into it. Go ahead.
I mean, it wasn't really a melody. It wasn't something that you could like
can't hum it.
along. Yeah, exactly. It was just pure like ambiance,
Yeah.
sound design, and it just really did a great job developing that just horrific atmosphere in a way.
Thomas Wayne as a character shows up in this really as the bad guy. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's the rich versus the poor, which we've seen a dozen times before, and also seen it in other Batman films before, including The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
And so Thomas Wayne is kind of set up to be the bad guy. There are some interesting twists on what they do with his character and the relationship with the Joker,
Yeah.
which that would give spoilers. I'm not going to do that. Sound design was great. The set pieces, the way it was shot, all the technical aspects
yeah.
were amazing. But Phoenix, it is his
Yeah,
show.
it was-
It is his show.
It was a true method acting performance.
Yeah.
He lost like 52 pounds for this role. Just a year or two before he shot this, he had been in a film called You Were Never Really Here, where he was big and buff, and for this he was just like frail and skinny, and it was disturbing. I mean, just from a pure cinematic filmmaking perspective, it's something that you can't take your eyes off of, but the screenplay at some points makes you want to take your eyes away from it. The way that they just kept throwing this character down a rabbit hole, and he just kept falling deeper and deeper. and even some parts of the story just were incredibly hard to believe, even with suspension of disbelief that you go into basically any movie with. Some things that happen with the character and the way he interacts with the people around him, you're just like, I cannot buy that, you know, especially in this world that's supposed to be as close to reality as possible.
Yeah.
You know?
It had 4 false endings. There were 4 times the movie could have ended, but it kept going.
Yeah.
It kept going. It kept going. Any questions? Or
It sounds like it was just too grim.
it was
It
very
was,
grim.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
is
Too grim.
this is not a superhero film.
Not for the kids. it
No.
sounds
It's
like.
not for the kids.
Not
It's
at
an
all.
R-rated film. It is for adults, and only for adults who can take violent films.
I guess the obvious question for me is you talked about how great Phoenix is in the role, but how's he stack up against Heath Ledger? It's
Well,
different. It's different
totally
portrayal. I
different
get it.
performances.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a different-
I get that you can't.
I don't
They're
think
so
you compare
different
them.
you can't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
compare
yeah.
the two.
Because with Heath Ledger, you never knew anything about his backstory.
Well, he kept changing his.
It was the
his
multiple
backstory.
choice thing.
Yeah.
With this one, you see his journey to becoming the Joker.
Right, but as a performance, equally
Performance,
solid.
I'd say, yeah,
Oscar worthy without
Yeah,
a doubt.
Oscar worthy.
Yeah, yeah.
it'll. I would be surprised if he did not get nominations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was spectacular.
Well, it got Best Picture at the Venice Film Festival,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. So it's know what you're going into.
Yeah.
It's worthy of watching, but not for the kids. It's not a superhero film. It's a character study of somebody who goes from having already having a mental illness to going deeper and deeper and deeper down that path without the help that can provide him a way out. So, Joker, what is your rating for this? Did you ever come up with a rating?
I'm settling at a C+.
Okay.
Wow,
Unfortunately, yeah, like we were talking about, the first hour was nearly perfect, but it's almost like as soon as he became the Joker, the film kept going downhill from there.
Yeah.
And if it's a movie all about the Joker, then that's not a good sign.
Yeah, and I felt the same way. I actually, until the show started, I was at an incomplete, and I never give incompletes.
Yeah.
But I'm at that C+. I will move it up to a B- because of the acting was an A+.
Yeah, yeah.
And all the technical aspects were solid A's. But once the script started going off and they started throwing in these things, it really messed with me. And I'm not going to go back and rewatch this multiple times.
No.
I may watch it again, but not multiple times. So there you go. We're going to take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about other versions of the Joker, and then we're going to get Christian Jessup via satellite.
Who?
Christian Jessup via
Sounds vaguely
satellite
familiar.
to give us his take on musical scores related to Gotham City. Right after this quick intermission on me.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me.
Listen up. Do you have a passion for cooking? A desire to learn more about the craft of professional food preparation? If so, now's a great time to check out Cleveland Community College's brand new Culinary Arts Academy. This exciting 3-month program offers hands-on training for jobs in the food service industry. Across the nation, food service is one of the fastest growing industries. With your training at CCC's Culinary Arts Academy, you can compete for jobs in hotels, restaurants, conference centers, cruise ships, and other settings. Enroll in CCC's program and you'll gain in-depth training in food procedures, preparation, and commercial kitchen operations. Plus, the program includes a special add-on. You'll get your certificate in cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR training. You can earn good money too. Depending on where you work, starting salaries range from $20,000 to $50,000. In just 12 weeks, you can be well on your way to gaining the know-how to handle food safely, properly, as a true professional. Now ask yourself, are you ready to start your journey today at CCC?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Harrell, your host for Fur Your Information. Is provided to entertain and educate you about all things pet throughout Cleveland County. We have various hosts join me each month on the show to talk about dogs, cats, reptiles, snakes, and even horses. But we want you to stick through to the second half of the show because then we will have pets live on our set that you can adopt to be a part of your forever family. Fur Your Information once a month on C19 TV and online at c19.tv.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me.
Welcome back to Meet Me at the Movies. This is the Gotham City special talking Joker, and if we get to it, Batman stuff. And we are going to get to some Batman stuff because Christian Jessup is going to join us via satellite. We decided to go ahead and set that up now. Tim, back there on the Tim Cam, do you have him set up? And Zach, did Zach make sure the audio is working this time? You got the audio? Zach's helping with that. Okay, he doesn't know. Well, hopefully we've got the audio and the video. Christian Jessup joining us via satellite, Raleigh, North Carolina. He's going to give us some a little segment called What's the Score? We're going to bring him back occasionally to talk about what's the score, and he's going to choose
Sports stuff?
no, this music score, composing.
Well, I guess that makes sense in the context
So
of
what's
the
the
show.
score? We're going to talk about some of his Batman-related films, TV, and themes, music. Don't know what I'm talking about, but Christian, what are you going to be telling us?
Hi everyone, my name's Christian Jessup. I'm a film lover, I'm a film composer, and I'm so excited to be doing What's the Score for Meet Me at the Movies. I'm going to break down modern scores, classic scores, just any kind of film score for you guys. And this week we're going to talk about one of my favorite characters, Batman. Batman is one of the lucky characters that's kind of been explored throughout cinematic history. And one of my personal favorites is actually starting with the TV and film Batman from the 1960s. It's got a classic theme that kind of represents the character really well. In the 60s Batman, you see him really kind of campy style. It's really fun, it's kind of goofy, and I even think in the 60s they were going for that style, and so the music is really reflective of that. You've got some rock and roll instruments, you know, you're in the height of the rock and roll period, and you see that in the music as well. And you just have these classic scores that still stick with you today. I'm sure you recognize this music. Equally as memorable in pop culture is 1989's Batman score by Danny Elfman. This kind of made Batman a much different character than he'd been portrayed in the 60s, and as a result, it resulted in a very different score as well. You see a very gothic score, a very dark score, but also very dramatic. And you definitely get that Tim Burton flair. Tim Burton, Danny Elfman, they're huge collaborators, work on almost everything together. And so with director Tim Burton's vision of a dark, gothic Gotham City and the dark gothic Batman, you also see that reflected in the score. You've got huge choirs, low, dark, menacing chords, and everyone today still remembers that theme from the 90s films and from even the Batman animated TV series. Once again, I think this was a perfect theme for this representation of the character. They really knew what Burton was going for, and the music reflects that exactly as it should. In the 2000s, we got yet another iteration of Batman, and as a result, we got another Batman theme. Personally, this is my favorite, but I think that's also because this is the Batman that I grew up with, which was Christopher Nolan's Batman series, was scored by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. You see a much more minimal Batman score here, and I think that that's very intentional. There's not much of a main theme. Batman has chords that are associated with him, and he has certain notes that are associated, but there's not this big theme like you have in the 60s Batman or the 89 Batman series. And I think this also represents Christopher Nolan's vision for the character as well. In the 60s and the 80s and 90s, Batman is very superheroic. He's always outgoing, he's this big, exaggerated character. But Nolan's world was very grounded, set as much as it could be in reality, and as a result, you have a very grounded, slightly heroic theme, but not over-the-top superheroic theme. Like I said, this is one of my favorites. It's really minimal music, it's really emotional music, and I think it really captured Nolan's version of the character just as well as the other two versions of the characters and their themes have. Lastly, I want to talk about Batman's theme in Batman v Superman, directed by Zack Snyder. Interestingly enough, Hans Zimmer actually got to return and write a different theme for the same character. He'd written the theme for Nolan's Batman films, and he also wrote the theme for Snyder's Batman films. What's interesting about this is he went for a much different approach. This is a very dark, aggressive, and gritty theme. It's very dramatic, kind of like Danny Elfman's theme in the 80s, but it's also got a lot of that grit and that dark groundedness that we saw in the 2000s version of Batman with Nolan. So it kind of combines the two to go for dramatic, gritty, and very dark. A lot of people said Snyder's version of Batman was the darkest that we'd ever seen on screen, and I also think that this Batman theme was the darkest we'd ever seen on screen. So as we move into the future, I know that there's lots of Batman films coming out, there's Batman spin-offs coming out. We're undoubtedly going to see more and more iterations of this character and more iterations of his theme. So what to keep in mind is not necessarily what's the best theme ever written, but does the theme for each Batman iteration fit that version of the character? I think what we've seen so far and what I've explored with you guys really fits each version of the character very well, and I can't wait to see what comes for the future. Talk to you later.
Tristan, thanks so much. We appreciate you taking the time to give us some of your thoughts on the scores. Segment, What the Score? No, what the score?
What's the score?
What's the score? I get it right. Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate that. Thomas, Greg, Tim, Derek, you guys are just freaks. And speaking of freaks, we're going to look at Joker's past. We're going to look at some of our favorite Jokers, talk through some of those. And I'm going to let you start off because first one I remember seeing is probably the first one you remember seeing as well.
You're starting with me because I'm the oldest one in the room, aren't you? Cesar Romero.
Yes.
Yeah. From
Talk
the
a little bit
Joker-
about Cesar
From the
Romero.
Batman series from 1966. Certainly nothing menacing about the character. He was the clown prince of crime or whatever in the truest form, but he was a lot of fun. You know, you really can't compare Batman and the villains from that series to what we've seen in the latter movies, but he was certainly fine. The only one with a mustache.
Yeah, I know.
You know what the story is with that?
It was in his
Well, he was
contract.
a romantic leading man in the 40s and all that, and he was known for that mustache. And they offered him the part and asked him to shave the mustache. He said, "I'm not shaving the mustache. You can paint over the thing, or I'm out of here." And so that's what they did.
Painted over it. Yeah, and I didn't, I did not know that until I started doing the research. And there's a book that's kind of all things Joker that just came out from.
Where did you get that?
Closer Magazine.
Is that you on the cover?
What?
Is that you on the cover?
Yeah, it's me on the cover.
Yeah.
Actually, if I do this,
That's kind of
it's kind of creepy. But it's talked about and had a really close-up shot of Cesar Romero, and you could see the mustache. And I've watched the show since I was a kid and never noticed it.
No, yeah.
Never noticed it. So yeah, you can see the mustache. And he was fun. He was just fun. He was my, other than the Riddler, he was one of my favorites. But I like Burgess Meredith too as the Penguin. But we're digressing. One of your favorite Jokers that you've seen on film.
Well, it's Heath Ledger, far and away. He's just, talk about method acting. The way he was just so violent, but almost charming in a way. Like, well, I don't know if that's a good description, but
what does that say about your son?
But it's like you just couldn't take your eyes off what he was doing.
Right.
And the way that he would interact with Batman, it was just like, basically, I just want to watch the world burn. And there was just something about it that really got under your skin. And he could go from really menacing in one scene to almost like hilarious and laughable in the next. And there was just so much about it, so layered and nuanced.
I agree. And he had that same chemistry with everybody he interacted with in that film. Whether it was Harvey Dent, whether it was the rich guys at the party, whether it was the mobsters, his interactions with everybody and the chemistry he had. You're right. You could not look away.
No, you couldn't take your eyes off him. It was one of the most amazing performances I've ever seen. I mean, as far as a villain, he's up there with Cagney and the others from the 30s.
Absolutely. Well, one I'm going to talk about, and this one doesn't get talked about a whole lot, but there was a TV series called Gotham, which I really liked, and Cameron Moynihan did the Joker, and he actually, when you look at the way he portrayed the Joker, it was pretty amazing, and he did it through multiple seasons. He did it early on, and he disappeared, and you could kind of see where he was kind of an inspiration for other, criminals, and they took on this kind of clown mask to go out and do things in the Joker's name. Came back later, and you really got a much deeper story, but he played two different characters. He basically played twin brothers who both had some issues, and they both were inspirations for what became the Joker. You enjoyed watching him too.
Oh yeah, he was spectacular, especially fitting within the tone of that that was a really dark Gotham, you know. I mean, the series itself, but the city and his interactions with like the young Bruce Wayne was really intimidating. Interacting with like Detective James Gordon was pretty incredible, and then with all the other villains, there were tons of villains in that show, and just them kind of feeding off of one another was really impressive to watch unfold.
And doing that in episodic TV, when it's really good episodic TV, where you can see these character arcs, absolutely amazing. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I mentioned that one. There were tons of others. There was Leto, there was Mark Hamill.
I was going to say, you got to mention Mark Hamill from the
Yeah.
animated series from the 90s.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and you know, and he also did a villain called the Trickster on the TV show The Flash.
Yeah.
Where he was kind of Joker-like as well, and had the laugh. But yeah, his laugh, Mark Hamill's laugh, is absolutely amazing. And Zach Galifianakis did it in the Batman Lego movie, which you were a big fan of.
Oh yeah, that's it's probably my favorite Batman movie of all time. He's just the pure camp Joker, the pure he is a Joker. He's hilarious the whole time, and you're in stitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to come back at some point and continue maybe a Gotham City Special 2, and really dive into the character of the Batman. And what were you going to say?
It's funny. For a long time, the definitive portrayal of the Joker was Jack Nicholson, and we didn't even bring him up. We didn't even bring him up.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's been so overshadowed by Ledger and Phoenix.
Yeah, and Nicholson, I mean, that was the first time we really saw it on screen in a different way, and Robin Williams was initially in talks to do that.
Oh, I thought he was up for the Riddler.
First was the Joker.
Oh, I didn't know
First
that.
it was the Joker, and Nicholson was offered it. Nicholson said, "I've got some things I'm not going to be able to do it." So they offered it to Williams, who was excited. Then they withdrew it, and then so when he was offered the Riddler, he was still had bad taste in his mouth because he didn't get the Joker. He really wanted to do the Joker, but yeah, Nicholson's version of the Joker with Tim Burton was pretty amazing as well. He mixed both the kind of serious and campy side of it, and there were times it got almost too campy for you.
It did. It did.
Yeah.
As much as I
boombox
liked
scene.
Prince, I thought the Prince music ruined that movie.
And the boombox scene was my favorite scene from the whole movie. Oh man, he just goes in dancing to Prince, splashing paint on the other paintings. It's great. It's perfect. Yeah.
And one of your least favorite scenes in that movie.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and the Joker, we are talking about a lot of things relating to Joker, but the film with Joaquin Phoenix is in theaters now. It's getting mixed reviews, and it's not for everyone. Just want to mention that it is not for everyone, not for the kids. This is not a superhero or supervillain film for the kids. So I want to make sure I mention that. You want to email us, you can do that at info@c19.tv. Tim and Derek, thank you guys so much for being here and taking care of us. Derek, you were awesome.
He was knocking himself out today, wasn't he?
What?
Derek was knocking himself out.
He was. He was working really hard back there on the audio and did nothing with these cameras. Greg,
he's not even near the audio board.
Greg, thank you for being here. Thomas, appreciate you being here as well. And the movie quote of the week does come from The Dark Knight Rises from Alfred Pennyworth. You know, maybe it's time we all stop trying to outsmart the truth and let it have its day. So until next time, for Meet Me in the Movies right here on C19 TV, I'm Noel Thomas II. For everybody here, the cast and crew, we say thank you, and that is a wrap.
Happy